Russian President Vladimir Putin says Moscow will adhere to nuclear arms limits for one more year after the U.S. pact expires. He made his remarks as heads of state gathered in New York for the UN General Assembly today. Among them is Ukraine's leader, who is set to meet with President Trump this week. Russia appears to be trying to provoke the West. The president said yesterday he would defend the Baltic states and Poland from Russia if necessary, following Russian incursion into NATO airspace. Among the topics under discussion at the UN today, the war in Gaza. At the same time, France and Saudi Arabia held a summit of world leaders to revive the long-thwarted two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Several countries have recognized a Palestinian state, including the UK, Australia, and Canada. The U.S. and Israel remain adamantly opposed. The Israeli army released footage on Sunday showing what it says are military vehicles from its 36th Division preparing to enter the Gaza City area. Israel's military said it had struck more than 120 terrorist targets since the start of its ground operation in Gaza City. The IDF said Israeli troops had discovered tunnel shafts and underground passages and located submachine guns and ammunition hidden in civilian structures. For its part, the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza said at least 90 people had been killed in Israeli attacks on Gaza City on Saturday alone. On the way back to Washington from the Charlie Kirk Memorial yesterday, President Trump was asked whether it makes sense to ask Europe to stop buying oil from Russia when the U.S. purchases uranium and plutonium from that country. Mr. Trump called on Interior Secretary Doug Burgum to answer the question.
This goes back not only drill, baby, drill, but we've got to mine, baby, mine. We allowed ourselves to fall under dependence of both China and Russia for critical minerals. America buying uranium from Russia is not acceptable, and so we're working very hard, Secretary of Energy Chris Wright, myself, to make sure that we've got a plan so that the United States can get back into domestic enriched uranium production as quickly as possible.
In other national headlines, let's send it over to Alan Miller.
Monica, the White House is clarifying its change to H-1B visas after workers, companies, and foreign governments scrambled to respond to the latest immigration restrictions. Friday's surprise order from the Trump administration announced a new $100,000 fee on some visas. The White House later clarified that existing holders of H-1B visas for skilled workers are not affected, and the fee is a one-time charge limited to new petitions. The proclamation is a win for immigration hardliners on Capitol Hill, but is likely to rankle tech executives seeking qualified workers from abroad. The fee had ranged from $2,000 to $5,000 per application. Several of the country's biggest news outlets are publicly pushing back on new restrictions that would sharply restrict reporting at the Pentagon. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth unveiled the new rules, which says beat reporters with a Pentagon credential will have to sign a pledge not to obtain or use unauthorized material. The New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal have all issued statements criticizing the policy. ABC says it will reinstate Jimmy Kimmel's late-night show after suspending it because of his comments about the assassination of activist Charlie Kirk. The network announced the show would return tomorrow. Kimmel faced backlash for his remarks, leading affiliate owners like Nexstar and Sinclair to pull his show. A magnitude 4.3 earthquake struck near Berkeley in California's Bay Area just before 3 a.m. People posted online that they could feel their homes shaking, and trains were running at reduced speeds while inspectors checked the lines. There were no reports of injuries. And one of the stories we're working on for First News at 6, what to do with old supplies you no longer need but can't throw away. We take a tour of the reuse room. Back to you, Monica.